When I lose a duel, I'm upset.
Hello and welcome to Whatever the Weather, another Arsenal podcast. Listener, you join myself, James, Dan,
Hello.
and Keith,
Hello.
following Arsenal's contentious loss to Bournemouth, 2-0 at the Vitality Stadium on Saturday, the 19th of October. We're here to discuss that. Quite a contentious game. I think the big talking point quite clearly is obviously going to be the red card, the VAR overruled red card, and which obviously led to Arsenal's first Premier League defeat of the season, our third red card of the season. 8 games in, but one defeat already. Sitting third in the league, had an opportunity to go top of the league had we won at Bournemouth on Saturday, but it was not meant to be. So, Dan, what are your first
Yes, mate.
initial thoughts?
Well,
I'm laughing because that's what Graham would do.
oh yeah, fair.
Let's
No.
make light of something.
No, look.
In all seriousness, Dan, what are your initial kind of thoughts and reactions of obviously our first league defeat of the season?
Yeah,
First defeat in all competitions.
yeah. For me, it was a red card. Probably I'll have half the Arsenal fan base disagree with me. Maybe most of them. I don't know, but for me, it was a red card. I thought it was a shocking pass from Trossard, and Saliba's got a decision to make, and he makes the wrong one. And I think you can blame Saliba, you can blame Trossard, you can blame both. But at the end of the day, for me, it was a red card. And so with that, you don't have to play 60, 70 minutes down to 10 men. And what can you say, man? You're not going to win games of football in the Premier League constantly going down to 10 men. And it's finally caught up with us, unfortunately. And that's what happened. I thought it was a poor performance. And yeah, we just got to take it on the chin. I thought it was a bad day at the office. And you just have to move on, really.
Well, look, before you go into everything, and you mentioned there about having an opinion that would split most of the Arsenal fan base, you've certainly split this podcast. We've obviously discussed what our thoughts are pre-record, but the whole reason we are recording is to discuss that. So, Keith, what are your thoughts on the decision that changed the trajectory of the game?
Well, how long have we got? I mean, it was just quite ridiculous that how VAR is so inconsistent when certain teams are involved. We never get any benefits of the doubt, ever. No decisions ever fall our way. And yes, it could have been a red card. It could have been yellow. The referees said it wasn't going to be yellow, and then it was told by VAR to change it to a red. It's just the inconsistency is really maddening. Now you can say that the lineup was quite blunt at the start, but just the refereeing decision really just drove me mad yesterday. I think it drove a lot of fans mad because it's 3 times now I've had sending offs, and now if they go for bad fouls or like studs up against the knee, then you go fair enough. But 3 really contentious decisions have gone up against us, and you could say once it's just an accident, but 3 times it feels a bit more than a coincidence now.
Well, I think, I mean, look, I completely agree with you. And I have to say, I've heard today that if you look up innocuous red card in the dictionary, it has Arsenal FC 2024-25 underneath it. William Saliba is now, following his sending off on Saturday, he's now going to miss 3 games, obviously. Coincidentally enough, against the VAR, Jared Gillett's beloved Liverpool, the forthcoming Sunday. He also misses matches against Newcastle and Chelsea. So yeah, less than ideal for a player.
Is it definitely 3 matches? I thought it was just the one match.
Yeah, 3 matches, straight red card. So not a double yellow.
Aren't the terms of the red card considered in the ban as well? So considering what it was.
You'd
I thought
like
it
to
was all
think so, but I believe from what I've heard today and from what the PGMOL and the FA Premier League have led me to believe is that he will most definitely be missing 3 games.
Oh yeah,
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but as it
yeah,
stands,
get it. The Liverpool
as it
fan.
stands, I expect that he'll miss 3 games. Yeah, I think. Do you know what my summary of the kind of the key? Look, let's be honest. It's the key moment in the game, and my kind of summary of that would be exactly as Keith said. I think you can see if the referee comes running over and brandishes a red card, you kind of feel like, oh shit. But you know what? Letter of the law, he's the last man, even though it was nearer the halfway line than the penalty box. Um, you can make some sort of case for it. However, as someone whose first memory of international football, by the way, something that was a hot topic on last week's podcast, was David Platt being hauled down by Ronald Koeman in 1993, not given as a red card, may I add. I feel like the bar for a professional foul, particularly if by the halfway line, should be you should almost have to decapitate someone in order to receive a red card. I think when the referee came over with a yellow card, yeah, of course, Bournemouth fans are going to be upset and they're going to be howling and crying for it to be a red card. But I think had it been a yellow card, I think 95% of people would have shrugged their shoulders afterwards and gone, could have been a red card, but been lucky to stay on the pitch. But you see that all the time. Referees try to keep 11 men on the pitch or 22 men on the pitch, and that's what it is. And I think that's what the decision was going to be. And then obviously it goes over to VAR. The irony is not lost on anyone that Howard Webb is sat in the stands. And obviously he's the head of the referees at the moment, and he was the legendary Howard Webb, as the Stick to Football podcast calls him. Interviewed him this week, and obviously there was a lot that came out about the use of VAR and upgrading and the fact that sending the referees over to the screen. And as soon as the referee was sent over to the screen, we all knew it was going to be upgraded to a red card. The inconsistency of it, which Keith talks about, is obviously in the later game today. So on Sunday, as we're recording this, listener, Chelsea versus Liverpool, an almost identical situation happened, and surprise, surprise, there was no red card. Keith is often considered the more paranoid amongst us. I think that would be an absolute understatement, particularly when it comes to refereeing and officiating. However, he makes a very clear point. 3 innocuous red cards this season. Are you telling me that no other player in no other team in no other game this season has kicked the ball away whilst on a yellow card, which could have been upgraded to a red? Because we've had that twice this season, and now twice in 2 days we've seen a decision that has been a yellow card upgraded to a red card, and then in the game today where nothing's been given.
Gavin back for Liverpool today did the
Yeah,
same thing, and
I
he got
kind
away
of
with it.
yeah, I think the case is quite clear that there is I wouldn't go as far as to say corruption. I think there is incompetence on a mass scale,
Yeah,
and I feel that it is, to say the very least, grating that Arsenal always seem to be the butt of this very unfunny joke that the FA and PGMOL keep dishing out. Are we some sort of guinea pig for stupid red cards? I don't know.
feels
Because
like
this
it.
potentially is this going to cost us our season? Is this the narrative for the season going forward? I don't know. Clearly though,
I
this was the discussion point in the game, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the whole game changed on it. The game was very bitty. It wasn't exactly a classic by no means, and the whole game changed on that decision. I think obviously the lineup. We can talk about the lineup. The lineup was wrong, but that could have been changed at half
Well,
time, 55 minutes
let's
in.
Keith, let's stop. Let's expand on that then there. So let's talk about the
Okay.
lineup. So obviously
no, I want to. Look, I hear what you're saying in all of
Dan
this.
doesn't want to go there yet. Come on, Dan.
No,
Get
no,
get
no,
back on the
because
red. Get back on the red card
yeah,
bandwagon. Come
look,
on.
I'm not here to
Put your
battle for
Howard Webb mask
VAR
on.
or for the referees or anything like that. It's clear that you can listen to our podcast previously. I'm not a fan of VAR. I'm not a fan of referees. I do feel we're ref differently at times, and whether it's a northern bias or an unconscious or conscious bias, they're doing it on purpose, or it's incompetence or whatever it is. At the end of the day, you can make that argument for the 2 red cards we had previously, for the countless decisions we've had against us in other games. But in my opinion, for this one, it was a red card, you can say, oh, it was a yellow, it was a red. You've seen them given because they're red cards. It's as simple
So
as
why
that.
wasn't the Liverpool one given today? It's a red card.
Because, well, you can call that incompetence then. Don't label the one that was given a red card when it was a red card incompetence, but the one that wasn't given a red card when it was a red card incompetence.
But it was given at the start by the referee. The referee made an on-field
The
decision.
two,
VAR is not meant to get involved in that
of
way. But
course,
suddenly
And
for
and
us, it
absolutely
did.
at that point, let me just jump in there and say Howard Webb on the Stick to Football podcast, where he was dubbed the legendary Howard Webb, made a point in saying about the referee's call, something the Premier League have run with this season to lower the threshold. They don't want referees going over to the screen so much. That if the decision on the field isn't contentious and it's not considered as a howler, whatever that is, then the on-field decision stands. Clearly that directive was thrown out the window there because that, as we said, that was contentious. That was one. And I know you say you've seen him given both ways, and we have. And obviously, you're right to point out that the ones that have been given, by the letter of the law, is the last man. It should be a red card. So, granted. And we've seen others where it hasn't been given, a la today with Liverpool. But it's worthwhile pointing out that what happened to the on-field decision stays. That was an overturn that was given in our game, and yet in the following game today, on Sunday, Liverpool v Chelsea, VAR wasn't consulted. Why is that?
But that's what I'm saying. But we've talked on countless times about the inconsistencies that are in the football game. What referees are, they're inconsistent. They're not using the technology properly.
Always
They're
against
using it.
us.
They're using it as and when. And yeah, as I said, there could be this bias or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, for me, it was a red card offence. The referee missed a red card offence. The VAR spotted a red card offence and gave a red card. I don't have a problem with the decision. It was a shit pass from Trossard. It was a bad decision from Saliba, and we're down to 10 men. Now, we can countlessly talk about VAR all we want till we're blue in the face, but what's that going to do? Look, we all know VAR is not being used properly. The referees are incompetent.
It's catharsis.
So
This is therapy, mate. Welcome to our club.
I'm just, do you know what? I'm just fed up of talking about it.
Then. Should I just accept the referees being bent every game and deciding against us?
Yes, you should
City
accept
got
it.
away with one today. City shouldn't.
Of course they did. Of course they did. And we have our reasons why that is the case. Yes, you either don't watch or you accept it. That's all we can do here, people. I'm fed up.
I'm not going to accept it.
I'm actually at the end of my.
I'm going to be annoyed about it.
I'm actually at the end of my tether of talking about it constantly because it doesn't get us anywhere. It just makes us bitch and moan when it doesn't go our way and stuff like that. And doesn't change anything. We got a game on Tuesday. We got Liverpool on Saturday or Sunday, whenever it is. We just got to fucking move on from it.
There are people that put money on that game. There are people that spent hard-earned money to go travelling to that game to buy tickets and all sorts. People that have paid their subscription fees to watch the game on TV, and they've been robbed of a game because of a unequal decision.
It was a red card, mate.
It's an unequal
decision.
As that. It's an unequal decision.
It was a red card. It was a red card.
It's an unequal decision. If that's okay, right. Let me.
No.
So I'm going to make my point.
If it
I'm
was,
going to make my point clear on this for now. I'll make my point clear on this with how Arsenal beneficiated in the red cards we've had this season.
I'm just focusing on this decision. I'm just focusing.
Yeah, but I actually want to bring in the other two because I think the build-up is what leads to this. I think if you get one bad refereeing decision or one innocuous one, you can swallow it a little bit. But when it's three and we're only 8 games in, questions need to be asked. And in my opinion, so my point, Dan, was just that if kicking the ball away by 2 inches, delaying the restart is a second yellow card for Declan Rice, fine. If kicking the ball away on the whistle for Leandro Trossard is a second yellow card, therefore red, fine. If bringing a player down on the edge of the halfway line D is a red card, fine, if you're the last man. All I want to see, if that's the threshold, enforce it through the whole league season. Enforce it through the whole league season. When I start seeing other clubs and other players refereed for the same things and pulled up for the same things and carded for the same offences, I will quite happily eat humble pie. I will apologise. I'll say, do you know what? It was a red card, Dan. You're absolutely right. It's you've just got to take it. It was a bad decision, and a bad decision by Arsenal players, by Saliba and Trossard. Which let's take nothing away from that. It was a dreadful pass. It was a dreadful reaction by William Saliba. We expect better from him. He is better than that. And I'll just be like, it's one of them things. We got on with it. But until that happens, I'm with Keith. I'm going to bitch and moan about it until I'm blue in the face. And I know nothing changes.
No, that's
You know what?
absolutely fine.
If you see inconsistency and you don't talk about it, it becomes consistent. That becomes consistent against us. So I think
That's
we have a
absolutely
duty
fine.
as fans of a club, and I think the club have a duty to come out and speak about this.
We did.
Yeah.
We've done that. We've tried that, and look where that got us. Absolutely nowhere. It got Mikel banned for a bit. And now apparently the refs are even more upset at us and of course look, mate, I'm not saying don't complain. Do whatever you want. Complain, bitch, moan, bring up all the other times, bring up where it's happened in other games, do all of that. But drop me out, mate, because I'm actually done. Like, I'm actually done. Drop me out. You lot crack on. When you want to talk about the actual game, I'll come back in. How about that?
Keith, what more you got to say, mate?
I mean, I do understand a bit what Dan's saying. This keeps happening to us. I can understand why he doesn't want to keep talking about it because it keeps happening to us over and over and over again. We get treated differently compared to other teams. That's just a fact, in my opinion. There's so much evidence now for it not to be anything other than a fact. And in my belief, I'm entitled to say what I feel. And I'm entitled to say it's all fixed. It's a bit dodgy. It's too many times it's happened to us for it not to be an accident. Now, I think the club should be much more forceful on this, say things in the press, release statements. Now, will it get solved or anything? No. The referees will just be more spiteful and like they've been since last season. So I can see where Dan's coming from. I do understand what he's saying, but
On
I
that
can't
point,
help
in
but
terms of
be
using the
forceful
media,
about it and say what I think.
in terms of using the media, so to kind of give reason why I think we should do that is I can think of two managers in particular, successful Premier League managers who had for a long time, it felt like the media and the FA in the clutches of the palms of their hand. And that's Jose Mourinho and Alex Ferguson.
Oh, yeah.
And I can tell you now, if this decision happened against them, they would refuse to do press conferences. They would call out journalists individually. They would call out the referees. They would do everything they possibly could to gain advantage for their clubs. And in the case of Sir Alex Ferguson, 13 league titles, I think he was justified in what he was doing. Jose Mourinho, 3 league titles. Do you know what I mean? I think this is if this is what is it they say? Don't hate the player, hate the game. Well, this is the game we have to play now. And I think we have to, as a club, stand up to this and call it out for what it is.
Yeah.
Keith, you've mentioned before there are no referees from London or from the south. That it feels like a northwest monopoly. As I said, I've mentioned it before. I mentioned it earlier on in this particular
why is that,
podcast.
though?
When I see a Manchester City, a Liverpool, a Manchester United, a Newcastle, any player from any other perceived big club, Aston Villa, any other club in the top 6 or top 8, a player that's on a booking, making innocuous decisions such as kicking the ball away, when I see them given a second yellow and turned into a red, I will say, do you know what? That's the standard everyone knows now. But that standard has not been applied, has it? It just hasn't been applied. The rule about kicking the ball away has been in place for years. I mentioned so many times about how Robin van Persie kicking the ball away or having a shot in the new camp in 2011 still boils my piss. 13 fucking years ago. It's 13 years ago. And where have we seen that since? In a Champions League quarterfinal, has anyone ever seen that since? Of course you haven't. But you can't turn around and say to me, oh, but no one kicks the ball away when they're on a yellow card. Because they do. They clearly do. Players kick the ball away all the time. Manchester City, there's this big things come out now about the dark arts and using it. Manchester City have been the kings of the tactical foul for the past 7 years. Fernandinho and Rodri have been doing it with absolute impunity for years and getting away with it. And now we've become a title challenger, which we are. It's now a thing. Oh, yeah. Arsenal are doing the tactical fouls and slowing the game down.
Look at City today.
Do you not see how the narrative's going, Dan? It's they don't like us. This is a fact. They don't like us.
Of course.
They don't like us.
I
and
agree
that
with
red
you
card, and that's the thing that boils me up yesterday, is that red card. If I see that happen to a Guardiola, John Stones, Kyle Walker, whatever. If I see that happen to them, mate, then I retract everything I've said. I retract it all.
There's no chance
I
of it
won't.
happening to City player. The referee would personally apologise on his knees before sending off a City player for such a thing as that.
Okay, wait. So if that happened for us, or say
I'm a
that was
football fan.
say
I'm a
say that
football
was
fan. I've
say
got
that
no
was Gabriel. No,
principle. Of
wait,
course, I'm going to scream blue
let
murder. It's a red
let
card.
me finish my point then, and then you can say I'm a football fan. Yeah. So all of you just said, right? All of that bollocks. Gabriel Jesus is about to get on the end of that. Gets brought down, same position. The player, the defender, only gets given a yellow card. What are you doing in that situation? Are you screaming for a red card? If the red card's not given, do you say VAR should have intervened and made that a red card? Be
Yeah,
honest.
but
Like, it's okay to
I
be
would
honest.
say it's a red. I would say it was probably a red card. But our point is,
No, you would no, but
no. Let me finish, Dan. I let you
yeah.
finish. My point is that when it comes to Arsenal, that wouldn't be given as a red card for again in our benefit. It wouldn't be given as a red card in our benefit. It'd be given as a yellow. Whereas when it's against us, it's given as a red immediately. But via VAR. Howard Webb was
Yeah,
there
again,
last night, talking in his mouthpiece as texting as the decision was being made. He's clearly texting and speaking and ensuring there was a red card. So he was there to apologise to Bournemouth for VAR mistake that was made earlier in the season. So he was there to make sure that VAR went well last night. And in
oh,
his
so
view,
it's not just Arsenal that gets done by VAR, it's other clubs as well, then, is it?
no, it's very. I'm saying most of the time it's us.
I'm just saying that the incident I'm not talking about the wider thing and like you lot are talking about. I'm talking about the incident. I'm saying it's a red card. You lot are saying if it was anyone else, it wouldn't be a red card or
I'm saying if the referee comes over and he pulls out a red card straight away, I'm swallowing it and going, you know what, bit of a
Yeah.
judgment thing, but fair enough because you know the VAR is not going to overturn that, and you turn because that's the thing. The referee, the VAR wouldn't. It only overturns certain things, and maybe that's more of a conversation about the incompetencies of VAR and how that's applied. And you mentioned that before, and I agree with that, and that's probably a different conversation. But I think for me, it's the thing that's hard to swallow is the referee has judged that as a yellow card offence there and then it's been overturned. Now VAR is meant to overturn howler decisions, things that are
okay.
absolutely undeniable where the referee's missed it or not seen it properly. Now, answer me this. VAR overturned that decision and upgraded it to a red card, yet they didn't downgrade the Bruno Fernandes one against Tottenham. So again,
Okay.
that's a clear example of where the inconsistencies lie with VAR because in the Spurs Man United game, it was, well, we'll go with the on-field decision because the referee had a good enough view of it. Well, the referee had a clear view of what happened yesterday.
So VAR didn't overturn VAR didn't upgrade it to a red card. They requested the referee to go and have a look at it. So the
Same
referee,
thing.
no, yeah, well, that winds me up about VAR is that
But it is
referees
the same thing, right?
should be able, no, but
Let's call it
like,
as it is, Dad. Come on, it's the same thing.
well, not today. It wasn't City's goal. Give it
It didn't
Yeah,
even go over
because
to the VAR. Didn't even go over to the VAR.
what? No, it did. City's second goal, like, was
Oh,
given
sorry, I thought you
offside.
were talking about the Liverpool decision.
No,
Sorry, the
no.
City,
City's
the offside.
goal was given offside, and then VAR went go and have a look, and then the referee,
Bottled it.
God, whatever it is. My point is that the referee had another look, had another look at all the angles, and the referee made his mind up to change the decision. Right. So VAR was just there to say, look, go and have another look at that. The referee has then gone and had a look and changed his decision.
my point, our
So
point is,
So I know what your point is. It's inconsistent, and Arsenal are the brunt of it, and we get ref differently, and it's all corrupt and all of that shit. I understand it, and in fact, I agree with most of it. To be fair, however, I'm fucking
It
done
doesn't make a
talking
great
about
podcast if we're all in the agreeable gang, does it?
when, like, there's just no like. I'm now choosing to because otherwise, I would go insane. I'm choosing to now look at the merits of the football game itself and look at okay, why was that red card even a decision having to be made? Why are we giving referees opportunities to make these decisions?
I mean,
again,
look,
I see where you're coming from with that, Dan, but then that feels to me like we're just letting them off the hook now.
I think
I need to talk about it to
I
get
think,
it
yeah.
off
mate,
my chest.
absolutely. You do what you need to do.
I think to
but
draw a
I'm
line,
just
because we're
saying,
going to just
drop
end
me
up
out.
going round and round in circles. I think Keith, I think, speaks for the majority of Arsenal fans who are absolutely raging at the inconsistency of it, and I very much lean into that as well. Obviously, look, you're far more balanced and rounded than us two on
No,
that
mate, I'm
particular
past
decision.
it. That's
But
why I'm over it.
I think the key thing is we can talk about the rest of the game and the pattern of the game, in which we will go on to do. And look, it wasn't a great game by Arsenal. And look, did we deserve to lose that game? I'm not sure. Did we deserve to win it? Probably not. It was
No.
one of those games. There wasn't really a lot in it. But the unspeakable fact is, the key decision in that match was the red card. That was a key turning point in that game, and everything else happens thereafter because of that. And I feel, justifiably so, I believe, that we have every right to call out what was a very, very bizarre decision. And it was bizarre because, and it was proven to be bizarre because exactly the same foul happened again today between Liverpool and Chelsea, and nothing was given, which completely proves my point.
That doesn't prove it was a bizarre decision to give a red card for a red card offence. The bizarre decision was given a
No,
yellow
the point it's
card
making
for a
is the
red card offence.
inconsistency.
That's
Well,
not
okay.
yeah,
So
it's not
and
bizarre
then my
decision to
final
give the
point.
right
So my
decision in the end.
final thing on that then, Dan, and I don't disagree with what you've just said there about the bizarre decision is not giving a red card. I then ask, what was the fuck was the VAR doing at Anfield? Therefore, by not calling the referee over and not upgrading that, what was going on there? You tell me.
Yeah, that's a bizarre decision. That's the inconsistency.
Yeah,
This is what
and
my whole point
where
is.
our and then the
This
capping
is
point
my
of
whole
that is
point.
where mine and Keith's frustration is that it happens to Arsenal, but it doesn't happen to Liverpool or
Yeah,
Chelsea.
but that's my whole point is like, yeah,
Is there any other wonder why we're both sitting here wearing tinfoil hats?
mate, I get it and I agree. That's what I'm saying. I haven't disagreed with anything you lot have said. What I'm saying is, if you want to call out VAR, don't do it on the decision yesterday because it was a friggin' red card. Like, call out all the other
No,
decisions
the
that you
point.
just
Our
said
point
and the
is,
inconsistencies.
But it wasn't a
was a
red card because it's
card.
not given as a red card every single time it happens, is it? That's the point.
No, it's a red card
Was
because
that if
it's
look,
a mate.
Dan,
You just agreed it was.
if that becomes a red card, if that becomes a red card, like Declan Rice kicking the ball away and that gets up, makes two yellows, and the same with Trossard. If that's the threshold, and that's applied equally and evenly across the league in similar circumstances, not a problem. Not a problem. Will it
Okay,
happen
no.
though?
So when it first,
Will it
no, so when
happen?
it happened, you said, and I quote, I've seen him given,
Yeah,
seen
it's
him not
orange.
given.
It's orange. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no,
But you
there's
go
no
with what the
such thing as
referee
an
does.
orange. So right, you've seen him given and you've
Yep,
seen him not given, right?
absolutely.
And you're upset that we that it was given,
I'm
even though
upset
it
more.
might not have been like, even though you've seen it not given, but you've seen it given, but you're
Yeah,
upset that we haven't been given the benefit of the doubt.
yeah. My rage to cap this off, because I kind of want to finish this and actually get into the merits of the whole game. But my kind of to cap my point off, I guess my rage is the fact that I know that particular decision is not going to be applied evenly, because I've seen it not be applied evenly. As I said, you've seen him given, you've seen him not. You've seen in this VAR era, in this VAR world, there shouldn't be that inconsistency, because that is what the VAR that is there to do. That if the referee misses something or doesn't get it right, they intervene and they uphold the standard of the laws of the game. The very next day, the same action happens and no red card is given. Is there any wonder why Arsenal fans feel like there is something against us? Is there any reason we become meme worthy because we're all over social media and the internet crying about it? Is there any reason why we're going to get abuse, and all the fans of other clubs that listen to this podcast, I know there are a couple, are going to just laugh at us because of this? You know, why not? I would. If I was in their shoes, I would. But the reason why we feel this way is because the evidence is there. It's as clear as day. The evidence is there. There's a body of evidence over a number of years where we are refereed differently and we are held to a different standard. It's as simple as that. And as I said, and my case in point is the decision today, and that has actually tipped me over the edge even more than I was yesterday. Because as I said, my initial reaction was seen him given. It's one of them. One of them. And as I said, once the referee went over to the to the monitor, you knew it was going to be given as a red card. And again, I kind of thought when I sat down last night, having digested the whole game and really thought about it, I thought, do you know what? Well, if that is applied across the whole season, then you know what? If that's a red card and it is the last, because he is the last man, there's no doubt about it. And Evan Nilsson was essentially through 1-on-1. Then you know what? I take it. If that's what the threshold is, and that's going to be a red card, and that's a professional foul, fine. But then the very next day, when the same action happens and it's not given, mate, it's a fucking farce. And no one can tell me otherwise. Not you or anyone else can tell me otherwise, because that's the world we're living in. It's a fucking farce.
Yeah. I think that's a good point to end
But
the red card talk on.
I will say, Dan, you've made some points about, the game and how you move on. The reaction to that red card was not where it needed to be from a club that's competing to win the league. So we spoke very, very briefly, and then we went back on the red card again about the lineup. So changes in the lineup. Obviously, Yuri Timber wasn't able to start, so Ricardo Calafiori comes in at left back. Ben White comes back in the team at right back. Mikel Merino gets a start alongside Thomas Partey and Declan Rice. Leandro Trossard is pushed out to the left wing to make way for Martinelli. Bukayo Saka couldn't play, having suffered an injury in the international break. So Raheem Sterling got his first Premier League start, and then Kai Havertz played up front. What were the thoughts on the lineup pre-game?
My thoughts were, yeah. I was not very convinced by the lineup. As I said in the WhatsApp group yesterday, something wasn't quite right with it. I think I don't want to say the word bottled, but he made mistakes with the lineup. I think having
what could he have done differently?
three sixes in there, in Marino, Rice, and Partey, was just too. Going forward, we just didn't create anything with those three. I think he should have.
But Keith, you're judging that based on the performance that came about. What were your thoughts pre-game? Is what I'm asking with the lineup.
I'm surprised
what would you have done differently?
I'm surprised he didn't put Trossard in the number 10 role and put Jesus on the left, on the right. He can do that. He needs game time. Why not do that? I think Arteta was caught between two ways of doing things yesterday. I think he wanted to give Marino a start, but at the same time, he couldn't justify dropping Partey. So he settled, he thought, okay, I'll play all three. And it just didn't really work. He should have played Trossard in the 10 or Jesus on the left. Maybe even give Enweri a start, because it's against Bournemouth. They're a good team, but it's not City away, let's be honest. So I think the lineup wasn't working. Now the red card changed the whole game. I think if the red card doesn't happen, it gets to half-time 0-0, 55 minutes 0-0. We change it, we'll probably win that game 1-0 or 2-0, something like that in the second half. You would meet some subs, but unfortunately the lineup just wasn't working for me. We just weren't clicking enough in the first half before the red card, and after the red card, obviously, you got to take off Killian.
Dan, what did you think of the lineup, particularly pre-game?
No, I was okay with it. I didn't really see too much more we could do. I'm not a big fan of Gabby Jesus out wide, if I'm honest. Felt like
it's his best position.
Well, he's out of form as well.
How do you get him into form unless you give him games?
I just felt Trossard being there. Martinelli's not fit. Saka's not fit. We obviously played Raheem Sterling as well, who I thought was, even though everyone was in uproar when he got taken off, I thought he was quite poor. I think his decision making was terrible. He looked a threat, but the final product or his final decision making was just not there. But sorry, back to the lineup. I thought there was not much more Mikel could do. There wasn't a lot of creativity in that midfield, but I thought it was solid enough to stop Bournemouth from doing anything. And then I think we had enough in the front three to do something. Trossard, Havertz, and Sterling. That's enough attacking power there to do something. Before the red card, it was a bit bitty, but I could see us warming into the game. I thought we were starting to get out wide, get it to Sterling a bit more quickly. And I said we had a few half chances. I think Marino had a chance, and we were doing okay. And then yeah, the red card does change the game. It was a poor pass from Trossard, and yeah, we've gone over that already. And then
What
you're
was
down to
Trossard thinking, honestly?
yeah, it was a hospital pass. It was
Yeah.
terrible, and Saliba panicked. All the things that people were saying about the red card, Ben White would have got there first, or Raya might have been able to come out, or whatever it is. Saliba didn't take any of that into consideration and made the decision and got him sent off.
I mean, in that moment, it's a split-second decision.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, it's human instinct just to give a little pullback. It just is. I mean, we've all played football, haven't we? Obviously, not at that level,
yeah,
but even in five side, you just the instinct is just to give a little pullback. And I always think, why do players do it? The professional players, they just let him go through.
it's just
Let
an
him score and
instinct,
get
isn't it?
sending off.
Yeah,
And that split second instinct in his head just went, give a little pullback. And then, yeah,
yeah, and that's why I blame Trossard mostly for that.
yeah.
I felt like it was a really, really poor pass that
Did
put
he
Saliba in the
mishit it? Or
situation.
do you think he meant to do it like
Uh,
that? Do you think
I think he, I think he got caught in two minds. He was going to either try and play it back to the keeper or try and play it in to midfield, and he got caught in two minds and did neither, and
Mhm.
put Saliba in a situation where he had to deal with it. And it's easy to say, oh, just let him go through and let him score, make it 1-0.
Yeah,
We'll still come back and win, but logically, that doesn't make sense. If you're losing, you'd rather not be losing a game than losing a game. It's as simple
yeah.
as that. So,
It, and we've
That
Saliba,
seen
that
it,
that
yeah.
that little bit of conversation then just reminds me of all the talk around the 2006 Champions League final.
Oh, I was thinking the same thing.
Horrendous,
yeah,
shuddering memories then.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's easy to say, just let him score and it'd be fine. But yeah, and then the red card changes it, and then you know, 10 men in any Premier League game,
Do you
it's
think
gonna
it
be
was?
it's
Do you
gonna be
both?
tough.
Sorry, do you both guys think it was the right call to take off Sterling at that point when we went down to 10 men to bring on Kiwi, or could we have gone to a back three? Calafiori and Ben White have both been quite adept at playing a back three before. Um,
it's a
what were
bit
your
too defensive for
what were
me.
your kind
I
of
think
thoughts on that?
we should have waited a bit longer with the substitution, I think. Most managers in that situation, 9 times out of 10, a manager will make a substitution there and then, bring on a defensive player, shore it up. I just think Bournemouth weren't doing too much at the time. We were mostly on top, but it was like 50, 60 to 40% who was on top. And I would have kept the team as it was till half time and then made a decision. I think Sterling on there would have been a good option because of his pace. Kivio, I think he just isn't confident. He's not that great a player, and he isn't confident either. And he just didn't look comfortable at all game when he came on. So I think the substitution was wrong. We should have kept the team as it was out there to half time at least and see what go from there. Sometimes I think it's the natural instinct is to go defensive when you go down to 10 men, and sometimes it's actually better to try and make the other team think. Keep the team attacking. I know obviously down to 10 men it's harder, but keep the other team thinking. And I think Arteta, looking back yesterday, probably would wish he had done that instead, bringing Kvyat on, and he would have made a change with the lineup as well.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's really hard to say. You go down to 10 men. I know we'll keep on attacking. That's a tough thing to do, man. Surely you got to shore it up, and as I said, you're away from home as well. And
Yeah, but Bournemouth weren't
Bournemouth are
exactly
no mugs.
Bournemouth
Yeah,
weren't exactly like dominating us at the time.
Bournemouth are the XG kings of the league, aren't they? They've been the team that's had the highest XG and not converted,
yeah,
so
and I
they have
mean,
got a threat.
and Semenyo and Utara on the wings, really attacking the fullbacks. Yeah, I just felt it's just you go defend, you bring on a defensive player. You've lost a defender, you bring on another centre back. It's not like some genius tactic or whatever, but
No,
you do
but
what you do. You go,
yeah,
if
but
you play with a back four, then and you've lost one of your defenders, you
I've
bring on.
I've
So I felt like Mikel wanted to stick with the back four, and he's lost one of his defenders, so he's brought on Jakub Kiwior. I think if we had players fit, I don't think Kiwior would have been the choice, if I'm honest. But we're actually down to the bare bones defensively, ironically, even though that was our strongest position. But we've had so many injuries and suspensions now that we're having to turn to Jakub Kiwior, which I don't think Mikel would have wanted to do, but something we had to do. Is what it is. I thought Kivior was okay until later on in the game when we'll talk about that as well. But yeah, down to 10 men, I feel like you have to try and maintain the game. It becomes a do not lose game. We could say it's Bournemouth, but I think we all watch football enough to know that Bournemouth are actually a decent team, especially away, at home. They're going to cause you problems, and they did. And unfortunately, caused us too many. But yeah, I don't say it was Mikel's best game. I think looking back, there's certainly things he would have done differently, as Keith mentioned. I agree with that. But yeah, bad day at the office, man. It really was. After that sending off, it's all bets are out the window, and I think you go defensive, and if you take your chances when you get, and that would lead us on to the Martinelli chance, because if Martinelli scores that and we win 1-0, we'll say, oh, genius from Mikel. But unfortunately, that's not the way it went. It was just a bad day all round. Like,
Yeah, I completely agree. It was a bad day all round, and 100%. Yeah, if the second the pivotal moment on the game was the red card, the second pivotal moment was the Martinelli miss. I think if he scores that, I think the chances are we probably hang on and win 1-0, and Mikel is hailed as some sort of genius for it. I have to say, the timing of the red card obviously coming in the first half, I think was it the 37th minute or something.
yeah,
I was a little bit surprised that Thomas Partey didn't drop in at right back and that Ben White shuffled across as centre back to see us through to half time. And then we kind of made a decision then. I that was my instinct at the time. I thought he was quite quick to make the change, and I wasn't keen on having essentially three left-footed defenders in the back four in Gabriel, Kiwior, and Calafiori. Um, that was my kind of take on it. But I think obviously the way we build up from the back quite a lot as well. I think that was quite a sensible tactic, and it was probably that we were going to try and have a lot of stale possession to kind of entice Bournemouth onto us to then hit on the break or something like that. I don't know. Couldn't really work out what the game plan was. But I did think that, something that's been levelled at Mikel a couple of times, and particularly probably in light of the Man City game where we went down to 10 men as well, is that we've not been brave enough when we've got 10 men. That, 10 men, there are plenty of examples of teams with 10 men winning games of football. Arsenal in our history, particularly, you think when Arsene was the manager, and obviously football's changed a lot in those years, but you think some very famous wins. I remember one particularly, which was a god awful long time ago, listener. We went to Anfield in 2002 and won, despite being down to 10 men. Famously, when we went on to win the double that year. And football's littered with that, where teams of 10 men have won. There is a kind of feeling that, okay, yeah, Bournemouth, their underlying metrics are very good, and they were at home. But Bournemouth are very much a lower mid-table team. They're a team that's going to finish, by all rights, they're going to finish somewhere between 10th and 16th this season. Probably more like 12th, 13th, 14th. But yeah, they're not going to be challenging for European places. Tactically, they're well set up, but could it have been a case that we could have attacked them a little bit more, and we had enough on the pitch to have done a bit more going forward with the ball? I don't know. I do think the game highlights, it sounds so simplistic to say it, but it highlights how much we miss Ødegaard and Bukayo Saka from an attacking standpoint. It's absolutely obvious to say it, but yeah, two world-class players bring a lot to this team. But yeah, they absolutely do. And I think it just goes to show that we kind of lack that a little bit. I understand a lot of people on social media and on the internet have cried that we should have brought Nwaneri on earlier. Keith, I think, mentioned it as well, but I'm not sure throwing a 17-year-old on when you want a bit of tactical discipline down to 10 men was necessarily the answer, but I did think we could have done things differently. I wasn't surprised to see that Sterling was the one sacrificed, to be honest, once we decided we were going to make a change. I think, like you said, Dan, I think he's been a bit, but I think his start at Arsenal has been quite underwhelming, and I think we're seeing a 30-year-old Raheem Sterling. We're not seeing the vintage Raheem Sterling from 2017 when he was at City and he became super efficient. I think we're seeing the Raheem Sterling that was before and after that, where he would get caught in two minds. He would be quite inconsistent and sloppy with some of his basic play. So I wasn't hugely surprised to see him taken off. I was a little bit surprised that Gabby Jesus didn't come on earlier, because he's someone who is a press machine. It's easy for me to say, a press machine. And I would have thought that his work rate and energy, I wouldn't have been surprised if he came on. And again, tactically, I thought it was crying out for Partey to drop in at right back, Kai Havertz to drop into sort of a midfield number 10 role, pick the ball up deeper, and get Gabby Jesus on. But look, it's all hindsight. As the game was playing out, I don't think there were many chances for either team really, other than the Martinelli miss. And then obviously Bournemouth get a corner, and I have to say I thought they worked the corner really well. I think Martinelli doesn't exactly cover himself in glory in that. He kind of got caught in no man's land, between whether going out to go on the edge of the box or to tuck in. And yeah, it was a quality finish by
Yeah.
Christie. I don't think there's much nine. I think once we were 1-0 down, it felt like we were playing for a set piece, to be honest, at that point. I couldn't really see us getting back in the game. And then obviously Bournemouth got the breakaway. And yeah, was it a surprise that David Raya wasn't sent off with the penalty as well?
Let's not get started on all that again. Um,
No,
I'll be honest. I can't be bothered to talk about it. That Raya thing. Um, is a he knows the rules. It changes every week. VAR. Yeah, let's not talk about it too much. It was like I said, Bournemouth didn't play great yesterday, and they won. They might have deserved it, some people might say, but I just don't think it was like pretty much a nothing game, and they got two big moments, and they did what they had to do.
I think it was as I keep on saying, bad day at the office, because not only we could say that Mikel picked the wrong starting lineup or tactically he wasn't there yesterday, but I just feel like individual performances really let us down, and
Yeah,
individual mistakes really cost us in that game. Because as Keith said, there wasn't much in that game. We kind of gave them that game really
yeah,
with our mistakes and our individual performances. I thought David Raya was really poor. His distribution was poor,
Yeah.
almost cost us a couple of goals. Um, Also nearly made a mistake where he had to make up for it with a double save. But I thought David Raya had his worst game of the season. I
I
thought
think you'd argue his worst game for Arsenal, to be honest.
yeah. Go with that.
possibly,
Go with that.
possibly. Um, I didn't think that Calafiori was very good, and I really like Calafiori, but I don't think he had a
I think you can say the whole team wasn't very good yesterday.
particular. No, I felt Declan Rice was good. I felt Declan tried to make things happen.
Shows up,
Uh,
then he.
he was,
Yeah.
I thought Partey was actually pretty good, doing what he
Well,
does.
that goes to show that we did need to start Marino.
Um,
We did need to start Marino yesterday. It was a bit, it was
Do you
too
think it might have
defensive.
been a case that with the midfield that configuration of that three had half a mind or half an eye on Liverpool coming up next week?
No, I don't. I think what happened was, well, I think what happened is that Arteta wants to get Marino in there alongside Rice. He wants to drop Partey because he can't rely on Partey because we know what happens with Partey every season. And I think yes, but he couldn't justify to the squad in his head maybe he couldn't justify dropping Partey when he's been playing well. So he got
but
caught in no man's land a bit and he fudged the decision. And I think that meant we had to pay Trossard on the left, we had to pay Marino as the number 10. It just, the whole team, and that meant when we started the first 35 minutes, just before the sending off, up to the sending off, I should say, the whole team wasn't clicking. And I think that just, after once we went down, uh, went down to 10 men, the whole team just thought, oh,
I'm not sure I'd agree with you with
I don't
that.
know the whole. I don't think the team was working
No,
before.
I think following an international break, I think, and look, it's a shame I wasn't on the podcast last week because I would have given some different opinions about international football. But I think one thing we can all
Well, you would have been wrong, so it's good that you went on there.
one thing I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that. One thing that we can all agree on is that the scheduling of international breaks is absolutely appalling, and the stop-start nature of the season. And I think actually even that goes on that goes for the Champions League as well. Is that nothing has time to cook. It's everything is you can't kind of settle into the season. There's kind of no. Um, I think fans feel it, players feel it. It's just everything just feels a bit up in the air. You've got one week, you've got your Champions League head on. The next week, you've got the Premier League head on. Then you've got your international head on, and it's just back and forth, and it's contless, relentless hamster wheel. And but yeah, I think there was a great opportunity following an international break, where players have been jetting off around the world, that you can ring a few changes, and I think you can justify that to a squad. So I don't necessarily go along with the fact that he couldn't justify it to the squad. Um,
Do you think he
I
didn't
do think
start
long. I
and
do
and
think
Murray because he didn't want to upset the
no. I mean,
hierarchy?
no. I think one area I think you're going to see he's going to. I really do think Graham's mentioned this before, as has Tom. I think I think Mikel is going to manage one area like Pep managed Phil Foden, fits and
Yeah,
starts. Bring him in case he's 17. There's no need
yeah,
to
but I think
there's no need to throw
yesterday
him
could have
in and
been
give
the perfect
undue
game for
pressure.
him.
Um, I think we're all people are gagging for a start because you want to see this player unleashed. But I think, yeah, use him wisely in like Phil Foden was at City and bring him in slowly. I think that's going to be the formula there. Um, but yeah, no, I think going back on that point with Partey, I think, and on the midfield configuration, I kind of think that he had Mikel had half a mind on how he's going to set up against Liverpool, um, and he wants to get Mourinho into the team. Um, but nonetheless, it didn't work, and it was how you change it up from there going forward. And he's got to change it up now because obviously there's been injuries and there's suspension, so it's what we do going forward what counts. But I think to Dan's point, yeah, we had a bad day at the office, and I think that goes to Mikel as well.
Yeah, I agree. Um, it was bad, but
Yeah,
again, we just got to bounce back, as you said. It's enough game on Tuesday. We go again. It is what it is.
Yeah.
We're not going to have Saliba for the Liverpool game, which is unfortunate. We're not going to have Odegaard still. Hopefully, Saka's back by then. But it's been a tough start to the season, not just fixture wise, but player availability wise as well. And we've managed it quite well so far. I'm certainly not going to sit here and throw my toys out the pram. That was our first loss this season and our first away loss in 2024. So look, I'm not going to lose my shit. We just have to
go
take it on the
again.
chin. Bad day at the office. We go again on Tuesday and bring on Shakhtar, I guess.
Yeah, I think absolutely spot on. Couldn't agree with you more. Make you 100% right on that one. Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. I think once it's done, you have to just chalk it up. It was just one of those things,
Yeah,
and it's very few teams go the league season unbeaten. Only one team in living memory actually goes through the league season unbeaten. Thought I'd just get that in there.
Who's that
Um,
then?
boil some people's piss. Um, unlike things like trebles where they dish them out every few years or so, don't they? But anyway, it's particularly
Yeah.
in certain cities, I think where both teams win. But anyway, that's another story. But no. But look, yeah, I think yeah, it's easy now in hindsight to kind of chalk it up and say, look, it's one of those ones you just got to take on the chin. Obviously, at the time, I think the decision and the referee and stuff and kind of how we get to that point. That grating thing. In some ways it feels very much like the Newcastle defeat last season, where um, over the course of a season, if we're going to have one that's going to be very contentious and riddled with referee and controversy and whatever, if that's the one and we've got it out of the way now, then fine, so be it. Um, Obviously, we can't have too many more of those because we saw last season, City didn't beat either Arsenal or Liverpool, and they still won the league by beating all the teams that they were meant to beat, and that's what we're going to have to do. And that's probably where we fell short last season. We obviously lost twice to Villa, Fulham, Newcastle. Um, we can't West Ham. We can't afford to do that again. So we've got to dust ourselves and get back on, right back to winning ways. Liverpool is going to be a strange game. I think, like you say, it's all going to be about the availability or who we can put out in the team. But Shakhtar, we've got to negotiate that on Tuesday. I don't really know. I know Graham goes on about it every single podcast. No one really understands the Champions League. As I said, um, just going into this sort of segment, I think the season hasn't really had time to cook. It's not settled down. And no one really knows where they stand. I think I would just go back on the old school adage that you've got to win your home games. We've
Yeah,
obviously so far in the Champions League, we've got a pretty decent point away at Atalanta, and then obviously the win against PSG, which was great. So look, I think if we beat Shakhtar, we're in a pretty good position, probably to advance to the next stage. I would say. I don't
maybe.
really know where Shakhtar are in the sense of in terms of league form. I don't even do they even play in their league season. No one really knows. I know they haven't played a home game for about 8 years, um, due to bomb damage and warring and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's a real shame for what used to be at one point was an emerging sort of powerhouse in Europe. I think did they win the Europa League? Did
I
they win
think
it?
they did, yeah.
Um, they were quite a pull, certainly in the early to mid 2000s. A lot of Brazilian players were there, I think. Um, Willian, particularly, I remember was there. Um, but yeah, I don't really know what to expect from Shakhtar on Tuesday. My arrogance is going to say that we're going to turn up because we're the Arsenal and just brush them aside. But um, I don't really know. I mean, they've been mainstays in the Champions League for a long, long time. So yeah, the main thing really with that, as we sit here, let's be honest, is we can't afford any more injuries, right?
No, we
Yeah.
cannot. That I think what Saturday showed, unfortunately, was that we are still light in attack. Whether Mikel doesn't trust players or just simply doesn't think, I don't know. But um, the injuries that we're getting, um, I still show a lack of depth. Sterling, for me, I don't want to be the one to judge him too soon, but he's trash, and I think he's not going to work. And no, I'm
Oh,
joking.
damn,
No,
I wasn't expecting that.
no, I'm not there yet. But I thought he was really winding me up on Saturday. So a couple more of those, and you're gonna hear a
Wow.
different.
Had to
Yeah,
piss you off in 35 minutes, eh?
no, seriously, it was just like, yeah, it shows how much we miss Bukayo Saka. It really does. Um, which is scary, right? To you know be so poor without Bukayo. But it is what it is. We are quite reliant on him. Hopefully, he's back soon. If he's fit, do you risk him on Tuesday, or do
No,
you wait for Saturday?
well, a question I was going to put out to both of you. I mean, I know I'm pretty sure I know what Keith is going to say because I kind of know how after many, many years, I know how his brain's going to work and he's going to say, ring every sort of change and put out a Carling Cup team on Tuesday. But I guess
I wouldn't go that
the
far.
question was going to be, should we really ring the changes on Tuesday? And should we see, I mean, the likes of, I mean, look, Alexander Zinchenko hasn't played barely this season. Is it a Jorginho game? Um, Miles Lewis Skelly potentially. Gabriel Jesus, Keith mentioned earlier on, he needs to sort of play himself back into form. He's a vital player for us, despite you know where he's been the last few months. Um, we've got to get him back firing. Is Tuesday a game where you kind of just give him a start and say, right, okay, show us what you got again, mate. Fight for your shirt. I don't know. Um, Knowing Mikel, I think he's probably going to go as strong as he possibly can again because that's just what Mikel does. Um, and I don't dislike that, by the way. I think, the Champions League is some people will mock us for it, but we have got a legit um, interest in trying to win that competition and finishing as high up as possible in this league format is can only be a good thing for us in terms of the potential draw that we'd get in the next round and obviously potentially avoiding a playoff as well. So I can see that Mikel um, would pick a strong team on Tuesday. Me personally, as I said, I'd be very tempted to ring the changes. Yeah, I'd be very tempted to ring the changes. I would like to see Jorginho start. I would like to see um, Gabby Jesus start. Having said that, as I said, Jorginho to start, I did just it did just flash in my mind. I remember Jorginho was almost transformative, and I think the performance that really got everyone on board with him last season. He was man of the match at home to Liverpool last season, and
Yeah, true.
that could be somewhat that could be a route we go down again. I don't know, but I'm sure I think he's got to be involved in one of the next two games. Um, I'd still pick Marino. I think Marino needs minutes. But yeah, really not sure what we do for Shakhtar.
I think you'll
Yeah.
keep most of the team there and then do 2, 3 subs.
That's what you think you do, or that's what you would do? Because I
That's what I
think,
will do.
oh, I thought you'd put Ethan Wary, number 10,
Yeah, I would.
right back, left back.
Well,
I know you love the kid.
no, I think he should have started yesterday. I think it was a great game to play him. Um,
Well, surely home
I
against Shakhtar is
exactly.
is the game to start him then, based on that, if that's what you think.
Well, you could. I mean, you couldn't make an argument for yesterday or Tuesday, but I would start January and I make a decision between Partey and Rice. Rest one of them and play Marino. If you want Marino to get minutes, you have to make a decision: play Rice or play Partey.
So, assuming we come through unscathed against Shakhtar, what off the top of your head do you think the back four should look like um, on Sunday against Liverpool? Bearing in mind that William Saliba is obviously now missing, what are we kind of thoughts? And having seen Jakub Kiwior come on yesterday,
I
and
don't
neither
give
of you seemed overly enthused. What are your kind of thoughts
I
for
don't give you anywhere near the team. He's not in form and he doesn't seem to be that happy on the pitch. It really depends who's fit. I mean, if Timber's fit, play him at left back and I put Carafroi next to Gabriel. Or you could put Timber at right back, Carafroi at left back, and Ben White as a centre back alongside Gabriel. So you have one right footer in there. That lineup would make sense. So if Timber's fit, he's got to play him somehow.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. If Timber's fit, then obviously he goes in, but I'd probably have him at centre back, keep Ben White at right back. I think Ben White has been playing right back for nearly 2 years now, whatever it is. I think Mikel likes him there. I think he played him at centre back his first year because he didn't have much of a choice. I think yeah, so I think Timber, if he's fit, goes in at centre back. But if Timber's not fit, then uh
Timber
it's a,
played so well against PSG at right back.
sorry.
Timber played really well against PSG at right back.
He did. He's a fantastic player, and if I
Well,
have
play
my
Ben White as a centre back then. I would. That's my thinking.
well, the thing is, Timber's just a fantastic player. So even if you play him at centre back, you're still going to get a fantastic performance out
Oh
of
yeah,
him.
I mean that's no.
So and Ben White, as he was a good centre back, but I feel like Timber's a better player. And so if you had my starting 11 with everyone fit, then White doesn't actually get in there. But um, for
I
this,
disagree.
you don't think?
No, I think Ben White's been fantastic for us.
Oh, he
This
has been. He has been,
this
but I just feel like.
sudden desire by a large part of the fan base to dump Ben White is totally unjustified in my opinion.
So who does he get in ahead
Tell
of?
us what you really think, Keith. Come on.
No, no. Yeah, who does he get in ahead of then?
Well, who? I play Timber at left back and Ben White at right back.
I think Ben White's one of the first names on the team sheet as well, I have to say. I think Ben White, Saliba, and Gabriel have shown over a 2 year period that they're starting. I think it's between Calafiori and Timber to fight out for left back, but that's just me. I actually think the reason why I asked the question about Liverpool and who plays centre back is I actually don't think it's that important. I think Liverpool's threat is mainly down the flanks with Salah and Diaz. So I think Ben White sticking at right back makes perfect sense. I think Calafiori will probably will play at left back unless Timber's fit, and then I could see Calafiori probably moving inside and Timber taking the left back spot. But I think ultimately who partners Gabriel, I don't think overly matters. It looks like Diego Jota's injured for Liverpool, so which would be good because he always fucking scores against us. Um, Darwin Núñez is very hot and cold as a player, isn't he? So it's and I think Gabriel could kind of would kind of go up against him in that kind of physical battle anyway. But yeah, I think it obviously a lot of that depends on who'd be available at fullback. But yeah, no, it's just kind of seeing where your kind of heads were at in terms of what we do
Yeah,
as a
I
back
think you're
four.
right in terms of centre back pairing and stuff like that. I don't think um, their attack against our defense is going to be the battle. It's going to be, I think, a midfield thing. I think without Odegaard, we're in a bit of trouble. Um, Gravenberch has been fantastic for them this season. Really gets them going. And then obviously Havertz up against Van Dijk and Konate can be a bit of an ish. Martinelli, if he's fit, he has to play because he's got Trent's number. I think we've seen it game after game that
Yeah, I agree.
um, Martinelli generally gets the better of Trent. If Bukayo Saka's fit, obviously he's the first name on the team sheet ahead of anyone else. Um, but I think attack wise, we're okay if Saka's back. Odegaard not being there is a massive miss for me because I don't know where the creativity comes from. I'm not as eager for Ethan Waneri to start, but I see why Keith wants it because from the glimpses we've seen, the kid can really play and he can really make things happen. So I don't know if I'm there with him starting yet, but in a creative aspect, we need something like that. And so, I'm not completely against it. So, not against Liverpool, obviously, not to start against Liverpool, but we'll need
Well,
something.
if you're good enough, you're old enough, right? I mean,
Well, yeah,
strange things
yeah.
have happened. I mean, I think if the kid's got talent, why not? It could be a bit of a wild card, but yeah, I don't think he would start against Liverpool. I think to go back to the Trossard and in the 10, um, Havertz as the 9, Martinelli on the left. I think that probably is the way to go. And I think then it all comes down to if Bukayo Saka's fit or not. I probably would go Gabby Jesus, I think, on the right. I think Sterling didn't cover himself in glory yesterday, unfortunately. Um, but I think Gabby Jesus as well is more of a goal threat really at the moment than Raheem Sterling is. I'm hoping that Sterling can find his touch, but I think at the moment Gabby Jesus, although he's out of form as well, I feel like he's more likely to nick you a goal than Sterling is at the moment. Um,
I
that's
actually
just a
liked
feeling.
Gabby
That's not
Jesus.
based on anything. It's just a feeling.
When Gabby Jesus came on yesterday, he only had like a couple of minutes, but he was making things happen. He won
He's sharp, yeah. I mean,
like
he's
two or
one of
three
the
fouls in the space of 2 minutes, and like was
he's
really picking up the
he's
ball and
genuine. I
running
mean,
with it.
I
And it
remember
was
when
like,
we signed him. I remember when we signed him. Pep said that he's probably the best defensive forward in world football. Like he's just
yeah,
a press machine. But it's the thing with Gary Jesus is unfortunately, and I think there are people who are far more qualified to talk about this than I am or we are on this podcast. But I think um, from
not
what I
me.
can gather is that he's
Really.
just really struggled since the 2018 World Cup when he was Brazil's starting striker, and he obviously didn't score a goal at that tournament. And the weight of expectation on him, I think, because he came through with Gabriel Barbosa, Flamingo, or Gabigol, who transferred to Inter Milan, and things didn't really work out for him. And Gary Jesus went to Man City, obviously at 19, and how things have worked out for him. And it's kind of like the dual trajectory of those strikers. They were like the next big things in Brazil as number nines. And for neither of them, it's really worked out the way they would have wanted. And I think Gabby Jesus then kind of sort of patriated himself as a winger or wide forward, particularly at City. And he just seems to have lost confidence in front of goal. And then he joins Arsenal. And the first 6 months of his time here, he was fucking unbelievable. I mean, he was absolutely mustard. I mean, I think everyone fell in love with that player because he was everything we would want in a number 9 and more. You know, he had the hold up play of a Lacazette and the interchange, the threat in behind, great on the half turn, the press forward as well that you want. You know, he was everything that we needed. And then he got that flipping injury at the World Cup, and it's not quite been the same.
International football again.
Yeah, and it's not quite been the same for him since, has it really? I think
No.
since then it's not quite been the same. Obviously, we brought in Trossard and he took his place, and then Gabby came back into the team, and obviously we couldn't quite get over the line in terms of winning the league. And then last season he was very much in and out. And I think huge credit to Kai Havertz. He's kind of made that position his own now. It seems as kind of like as our number 9. And yeah, it just he still has glimpses. He had that game against Sevilla last season in the Champions League where he's absolutely magnificent. So it is there, and the cameo against Man United when he came on. So it is there with Gabby, but it's just. And we did a podcast. I remember very early on in the year where you were very, very high on him, and Was it after Nottingham? It might have been after Nottingham? We played Nottingham Forest, I think. But you were very much like, if Gabby's fit and on form, like we don't need another striker. Like this is our guy. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
Like he is. You know, we're full paid up members of his fan club, and I think we just, to Keith's point that he made earlier on, I think we've got to get him back in form somehow, because I think
Yeah.
I don't see us maintaining. I don't want to be the voice of doom. We're 8 league games into the season, but I don't see us maintaining a title challenge if we're going to be without Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, for any length of time. We need our other big players to step up and fill that gap. Kai Havertz has done a very admirable job. We know what Trossard can do, but we need one of our other big hitters to really kind of step up. We've spoken before about Martinelli stepping up, and it's so frustrating that the chance yesterday falls to him and it didn't quite happen. We've spoke about Sterling, and we always knew Sterling would be on the edges and fringes of things. Um, but yeah, we need. I feel
Mate,
like this team. I feel
that
like
Martinelli
we
chance,
need Gabby Jesus.
that Martinelli chance, mate. It's just, it was
If it
so
falls to
obvious.
Trossard, it's a goal, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so obvious what he was going to do. There was zero, like, zero
Composure.
thinking about. It was just opened up his body and you knew exactly where he was going to go. The keeper knew exactly where he was going to go. It's like that quick thinking, that natural finisher just goes the other side. Like, doesn't make it so obvious. It honestly, it was so frustrating, and that's Martinelli's frustration for me, is that he's now been playing, professional football. He's been at Arsenal for what, 4 years, 5 years, however long, and you're still saying he's still raw. Like, we can't be saying that now, man. We need goals and assists and all of that stuff. And
He's
yeah,
not consistent. He's
no,
not
and I
consistent, and
spoke
I
about
think
his work off
we've
the
been
ball.
recording for a long time here, and I think it's well worth having this sort of discussion or conversation. Dan, me and you spoke about this as we were
Yeah,
coming back from Manchester from the Man City game, and we said the same thing. It's like, how can we have a player who, Brazil international, this guy was meant to kick on, and we had him on one flank and Bukayo Saka on the other, and one of them has turned into the absolute star boy and has just missed the consistency. Does Bukayo ever get less than an 8 out of 10 every game? He's there, taking kicks, taking hits, making things happen, goals, assists, the way he carries the ball, everything. He's developed where we beyond maybe what we thought he would be at this point. And with Martinelli, it feels like he's exactly the same player. Like he's very good off the ball. He offers you a lot in terms of his pace and his running, um, and pressing, but that's about it.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We shouldn't be talking about a guy who's not the finished product now. We should be talking about a guy who's consistently getting 10 to 15 goals a season, and he's
Line
done it
assists,
once,
yeah.
and he's done it once. Um, he showed a glimpse of what he can do, like what he's capable of, and unfortunately, we haven't seen it since. And I know he scored a couple of goals recently, and that's good. And just hoping that after those couple of goals, he gets that chance against Bournemouth, and you're thinking, mate, stick it in. And
Mm.
then we score that. I don't think we lose that game at all. We probably go on and
Agreed.
win that. Probably go on and win that 1-0. And we write off not a bad day at the office. It was
Get out of Dodge,
defensive,
don't you? Get out. That's what league championship seasons are built on. Getting
exactly
out of
that.
Dodge with the
And
3 points.
so those moments didn't really work out for. And but as you said, we need our big players to do something. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic when I say this, but apart from Trossard on that pitch, who would you have trusted in that position?
Only Kai Havertz, to be honest.
Would you have
And
trusted
even
Kai?
then,
Would you trust Kai Havertz?
Kai has had so.
He's got him missing him. Let's be honest, Kai's got a
Yeah,
hit
he's
missing him.
not prolific. I think Kai Havertz is in the team because of
Gabby Jesus?
brings what he brings to
No.
the team. Gabby Jesus, unfortunately, if Gabby Jesus was as lethal as we know he can be, he'd still be at Man City. They would never have sold him. They sold him because they had a doubt that, he's not the lethal predator they wanted. The most
Would you have
damning
trusted
thing, and I hate to say this because I feel like
Raheem
I'm really,
Sterling?
like
No,
jumping on
definitely
Gabby
not.
Jesus, but it says it all that they went a season and they preferred to play Phil Foden as a false nine over Gabby Jesus. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He lost form that much that they went with a attacking midfielder as their main focal point of their attack. So yeah, I think, Gabby, there's stuff. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he needs to see a psychologist. I don't know. Who am I to say that about anyone or for anyone? But because the talent is there, like the talent is there unquestionably. With Martinelli, you know what, you see so many good things, and when he's on a run and he's a streaky player, when his confidence is up and he's bearing down on goal, you know, a brilliant option to have. But it feels like it's been a long time since we've seen that. A long, long time. You know, I know even this year, you know, you cast him back. What was it, February when we played Sheffield United and he got that injury and he looked pretty sharp in that game, um, as he should do because Sheffield United were basically a championship team in disguise. But since, you know, realistically, he hasn't been good for pretty much 18 months now. Um,
Yeah.
which, yeah, you know, for what he needs to be. And it's a shame because you know what, I'll be rooting for him on Sunday in particular against Liverpool because, like you say, if Liverpool play like they have done previously at Emirates, where they play Robertson and Trent very high, and they, you know, we're here to try and win, and they leave gaping holes behind them. Canati don't want to go out there. He don't want it. And Martinelli has got the legs on those guys, and he is a real dangerous threat out there. So, um, hopefully that can spark him back to life. But yeah, it is a concern, a huge concern.
I feel like we've gone all doom and gloom now. It's
We
funny
have
what
a bit. I mean, we've been recording a long
it's
time.
funny
This is what
what
happens. This is what
it's
happens
funny
when
what
you
one
when you
result can do, and
when you keep
you start
talking for so
question,
long.
you start
I mean, look, one of the things I
questioning
did want to
things,
say,
and
and
you
look,
start. Okay.
one of the things I did want to say, sorry, Dan, was that we've been talking for a long time, but the true Arsenal fans will stick with us because that's what we're all about, right? We're proper. Um, what are you kind of thinking? Look, we're obviously 8 games into the season. It's been stop start with international breaks and different cup competitions and all this sort of stuff. We play Liverpool on Sunday, which is probably not a must win game, but it's definitely a must not lose. Where are we at? You know, we've as you mentioned, we've had a tough start to the season fixture wise, some injuries, some suspensions, player availability, all that sort of stuff. Man City are picking up wins, Liverpool are picking up wins. Where do we kind of where are we? Where are we at the moment?
As you said, it's been a very stop-start season. The international breaks have not done us any favors whatsoever. Not to harp on about that, but they're completely useless. And I feel like it's been very injury-wise, it's been tough. The fixture-wise, it's been really tough, and I felt we've managed it really well. Um, Barring yesterday, obviously, I said it was poor, but before that, I felt like we did okay. Um, to be there or thereabouts, and we've just got to try and maintain it. The Liverpool game, as you say, it's not it's a must not lose type of game. But my philosophy's always been in the league, you win your home games and you take what you can away. Um, I don't care who comes to the Emirates, we should be beating them. I said we're 4 or 5 years into this project, this process, phase 10 or whatever Mikel wants to call it. We should have a squad capable of beating Liverpool at home. Um, and I think we will, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to be too negative. As I said, it's football. You lose football games. That's just what happens. No team goes unbeaten unless you're the Arsenal. So yeah, we move on, and I'm pleased at where we are, barring yesterday. But it's time to get back on track after yesterday and carry on doing what we're doing. I think we've managed the season quite well, and it just means that there are easier times ahead. So
Amen,
So
brother.